You are bleeding time. Every single morning you wake up with a war inside your skull. Not the loud war of explosions and shouting, the quiet war. The one where you tell yourself today will be different and then your hand reaches for the phone before your eyes are fully open. That war, the one you are losing, not because you are weak, not because you are lazy, but because no one ever taught you that your mind is not your friend. Your mind is a survival machine built to keep you safe, comfortable, and small. And your goals are a threat to everything your primitive brain thinks it needs. Let me say that again. Your goals are a threat to your nervous system, to your identity, to the familiar pain you call home. And until you understand that, you will keep waking up, keep trying, keep failing, and keep wondering why everyone else seems to have figured out the secret. There is no secret. There is only the brutal, daily, unglamorous work of retraining a machine that has been running the same broken program for your entire life. You have been living on autopilot, drifting, reacting, chasing the dopamine hit of a notification while your real dreams suffocate in the corner of a room you never enter. And you feel it, don't you, that ache? That quiet scream behind your ribs that says you were meant for more. That is not a fantasy. That is a signal. A warning light on a dashboard you have been ignoring for years. But here is the truth that will either set you free or crush you completely. You are not distracted because the world is loud. You are distracted because deep down you are terrified of what will happen if you actually try. Terror of failure, terror of success, terror of finding out that even at your best it still might not be enough. So you sabotage, you procrastinate, you scroll, you clean, you organize. You do literally anything except sit in the silence with your goal and say, I am coming for you. That stops today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not when you feel ready, because you will never feel ready. Readiness is a lie your fear tells you so it can live another day. So here is the question you need to carve into your chest. Are you willing to be uncomfortable for the rest of your life? Because that is the price, not motivation, not inspiration. Not some magical morning routine from a guru on Instagram. Discomfort. Constant, unrelenting, muscle-burning, ego-crushing discomfort. If you want a different life, you have to become a different person. And becoming a different person means killing the version of you that settled for the snooze button. The version that negotiated with mediocrity. The version that mistook thinking for doing. That version has to die, and only you can hold the knife. So take a breath. Feel the weight of that. And then decide, because this script is not for people who want to feel good, it is for people who want to get free. And getting free is going to hurt, but staying where you are, that hurts worse. You just got used to it. That is not strength, that is numbness. And numbness is not the same as Peace Section 1. The neuroscience of surrender, why your brain fight's your own goals. Your brain has one job. 1. It is not to make you happy. It is not to make you successful. It is not to help you fulfill your potential. Your brain's only job, the only metric it cares about, is keeping you alive long enough to reproduce. That is it. Everything else is noise. So when you set a big goal, starting a business, getting in shape, writing a book, asking for the promotion, your brain does not see opportunity. Your brain sees a threat to survival, because change is danger. The unknown is danger. Effort without immediate reward is wasted energy. And in the ancestral environment where your brain was built, wasted energy meant death. This is not a metaphor. This is biology. The amygdala, that small almond-shaped cluster in your temporal lobe, processes threats in milliseconds, faster than you can think, faster than you can breathe. And the moment you commit to a goal that requires real stretch, the amygdala lights up like a fire alarm. It floods your system with cortisol. It whispers to your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, shut this down. And most people do. They shut it down before they even start. They call it procrastination. They call it being busy. They call it waiting for the right time. But what it really is a survival reflex. You are literally trying to survive your own ambition. Think about that. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are a perfectly functioning biological machine running software designed for a world that no longer exists. And until you update that software, you will keep fighting yourself. Every single day. Now, here is where it gets sneaky. Your brain does not just fight your goals with fear. It fights with comfort, with pleasure, with the promise of relief. Because the dopamine system is not designed to reward effort. It is designed to reward the anticipation of reward. This is crucial. Dopamine spikes not when you achieve something, but when you see a cue that predicts a possible reward. The notification, the like, the new email, the smell of food, that spike feels good. It feels like progress, but it is an illusion. It is your brain tricking you into chasing the next hit instead of doing the hard, slow, boring work of building something real. And the modern world has weaponized this against you. Every app, every game, every ad is engineered to hijack that same dopamine loop. So now your brain sits there facing a choice. Write the report that will take 4 hours of deep, lonely focus, or check Instagram for 10 seconds of cheap dopamine. The brain will choose the 10 seconds every time, not because you are weak, because that is how it was wired. The goal is a distant mountain. The phone is a campfire right now, and the brain is freezing, so you stay by the fire, you stay in the shallow end, you stay where it is warm and easy and safe. And your goal, it stays a mountain, unclimbed. Unclaimed, mocking you from the distance. So how do you fix this? You do not fight the wiring, you hack it. The first hack is called the dopamine fast forward. You have to manually attach a small, immediate reward to the smallest step of your goal. Not the whole goal, not even a big step. The smallest possible action. Want to write a book? Reward yourself for opening the document. That is it. Open the document, then close it. Give yourself a piece of dark chocolate, a stretch, a deep breath of satisfaction. You are teaching your brain that the cue, the goal, now predicts a reward. Over time, the anticipation shifts. Your brain stops fearing the goal and starts craving the ritual. This is Pavlov for productivity. It sounds stupid. It feels childish. But it is neuroscience, and it works better than willpower ever will, because willpower is finite. It is a muscle that fatigues, but a habit loop. A habit loop runs on autopilot using almost no energy. And that is what you need. You need to make focus the path of least resistance. You need to make distraction feel expensive. And you can only do that by understanding the hardware you are running on. The second hack is understanding the fear extinction cycle. When you feel that spike of anxiety before starting a hard task, your instinct is to escape, to check email, to get coffee, to reorganize your desk. And every time you escape, you teach your brain that the escape was the right move. You strengthen the fear loop. The only way to break it is to sit in the fear without escaping, to feel the cortisol spike and do nothing but breathe. Stay at the desk. Keep your hands on the keyboard. Do not move. The science is clear. A fear response, if you do not act on it, will peak within 90 seconds. 90 seconds. That is all you have to survive. Just 1 minute and 30 seconds of sitting in the fire. After that, the amygdala calms down. The prefrontal cortex comes back online. And you can work, but most people never learn this. They run before the 90 seconds are up. They spend their whole lives running from a threat that would have vanished if they had just sat still. Do you see it? The enemy is not the goal. The enemy is not the distraction. The enemy is your own conditioned response to the very first flicker of discomfort. Here is where the real shift happens. You have to stop asking, how do I feel motivated? And start asking, what is the one smallest action I can take right now? Because motivation follows action, not the other way around. Action creates evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief creates identity. And identity is the strongest driver of behavior there is. When you believe I am the kind of person who works out every morning, skipping a workout feels wrong. It creates cognitive dissonance. Your brain hates that, so it will push you to work out just to feel consistent. That is the level you need to reach, not forcing yourself, not grinding, just aligning your daily actions with a story you told about yourself so many times that the story became fact. But you cannot start at the story. You have to start at the action. The smallest, most laughably easy action. Put on your running shoes. Write one sentence. Make one phone call. That is it. Then do it again tomorrow, and again, and again. Do not worry about the mountain. Worry about the first inch. Because the inch repeated becomes a mile. The mile becomes a journey. And the journey becomes a life you no longer recognize as your own. Challenge for this section. Tomorrow morning, the moment you feel the urge to check your phone, sit still for 90 seconds. Count them. Feel the discomfort. Do not move. Do not reach. Just breathe. Then ask yourself, what is the smallest action I can take toward one goal right now? Do that action. Then reward yourself immediately. Repeat for 7 days. No excuses, say this out loud. I'm not fighting my brain. I am learning how it works. And I will use that knowledge to win Section 2, the brutal architecture of habits, building a life that leaves you no choice but to succeed. Let us talk about your morning. Not the idealized version you post in your journal, the real one. The one where the alarm goes off and your hand slaps the snooze button before you have even opened your eyes. The one where you lie there negotiating with yourself like a desperate lawyer. 5 more minutes. I was up late. I deserve this. I will start tomorrow. That negotiation is not a character flaw. It is a design flaw. You have designed a morning that makes failure the easiest option. And you will always choose the easiest option when your willpower is at 0, because willpower is not a moral virtue. It is a limited resource stored in the prefrontal cortex, and it is lowest when you first wake up. Your blood sugar is low. Your adenosine levels are high. Your brain is still clearing out metabolic waste from the night before. In that state, you are not a disciplined human. You are a reptile in pajamas, and reptiles do not meditate. Reptiles do not work out. Reptiles go back to sleep. So if you want to win the morning, you have to stop relying on willpower and start relying on architecture, environmental design, friction engineering. You have to build a world where the right choice is the easy choice and the wrong choice requires heroic effort. The opposite of what you have now. Let me give you an example from my own life. For years, I tried to wake up at 5 a.m. I set the alarm. I bought the expensive app. I gave myself pep talks in the mirror, and I failed every single time, not because I lacked discipline, but because my phone was on my nightstand, 3 inches from my face. And every morning, my half-asleep reptile brain would reach for it, turn off the alarm, and scroll, just for a minute, just to wake up. And that minute would become 30, and those 30 minutes would become a lost morning. The solution was not more willpower. The solution was a $10 alarm clock from a drugstore. I put my phone in the living room, across the apartment, on a shelf I could not reach without standing up. That was it. That small change added 10 seconds of friction to the bad habit and removed 10 seconds of friction from the good habit, getting out of bed to turn off the alarm. The first morning, I stood in the living room, phone in hand, and realized I was already up, so I stayed up. I made coffee, I wrote for an hour, and I cried a little, not from joy but from relief, because I finally understood that I was not broken. I was just poorly designed. And design can be fixed. Now look at your environment right now. Look at your desk, your kitchen, your car, your living room. Where is your phone right now? Where is the junk food? Where are the comfortable chairs that make you want to sit instead of move? Where are the notifications, the open tabs, the half-finished projects that scream for attention? You have created a habitat for distraction, a zoo where the monkey brain runs the show. And then you wonder why you cannot focus. That is like living in a loud nightclub and wondering why you cannot sleep. You need to change the furniture. Turn off every notification that is not from a human who could need you in an emergency. That is a very short list. Your mother, your child, your business partner. Everyone else can wait. Delete the apps you scroll mindlessly, not because you are weak, but because you are smart enough to know that the multi-billion-dollar attention economy is stronger than your willpower. It is not a fair fight. Stop pretending it is. Put your phone in another room when you work. Use a website blocker. Set your computer to grayscale. Do not trust yourself. Design yourself into success. Because the people you admire, the ones who seem effortlessly disciplined, they are not stronger than you. They have just built cages around their weaknesses. Here is the practical habit that will change everything. It is called the 5-minute rule with a timer. Pick one task from your goal. One, not the whole project. Do not even think about the whole project. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Tell yourself out loud, I only have to do this for 5 minutes. Then I can stop. Then start. What happens next is predictable. Once you start, the resistance drops. The fear of starting is always worse than the reality of doing. After 3 minutes, the task feels normal. After 5 minutes, you will likely keep going. But even if you stop, you have won, because you have strengthened the habit of starting. And starting is the single hardest part of any goal. Do this 3 times a day. Morning, noon, evening, 5 minutes each. That is 15 minutes of focused action. In 1 week, that is nearly 2 hours. In 1 month, that is 7.5 hours. In 1 year, that is 90 hours. 90 hours of focused work toward your goal. You can write a book in 90 hours. You can learn a language. You can build a business. Not by grinding yourself into dust, but by showing up for 5 minutes. By making the habit so small that your brain does not even bother to fight it. That is the secret of the top 1%. They do not rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Systems that are so tiny, so frictionless, so baked into their daily rhythm that not doing them feels strange. But here is where most people fail. They try to add the new habit without removing an old one. The brain has a limited bandwidth for change. If you want to add an hour of focused work, you have to subtract an hour of something else. You cannot just stack more onto a full plate. The plate is already full. You have to decide what you are willing to burn. What are you willing to say no to? What comfortable distraction are you ready to starve? This is the question that separates the dreamers from the doers. The dreamers want to add. The doers are willing to subtract. They are willing to say, I do not check social media before noon. They are willing to say, I do not watch TV on weeknights. They are willing to say, I do not answer email until my 5-minute task is done. That word do is important. Not can, not shouldn't, do not. Because do not is an identity statement. Can is a restriction, do not is a choice. And when you make a choice enough times, it becomes who you are. So who are you becoming? Look at your daily habits. They are the answer. They are the only answer. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Action step for this section. Today, before you sleep, change one thing in your environment, just one. Move your phone to another room. Delete one app. Put a glass of water next to your bed. Unsubscribe from one email list. One small change. Then tomorrow morning, notice what happens. Do not judge it, just notice. Then change one more thing the next day. Keep going until your environment no longer fights you. Say this out loud. My environment is not my enemy. It is my creation, and I will build it to serve me. Section 3. The self-talk that builds empires or destroys them. Listen to the voice in your head right now. Not the one reading these words. The one underneath. The one that never shuts up. What is it saying? This is too long, I already know this. This won't work for me. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too tired, I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes. That voice is not the truth. That voice is a loop. A loop that was installed before you could spell your own name. By your parents, by your teachers, by the kids who laughed at you in the playground, by every failure you never processed, by every moment you tried and fell short and told yourself, see, I knew it. That voice has been running the same script for years, and you have been listening to it like a child listening to a ghost. But here is the shift. You do not have to believe that voice. You do not have to fight that voice. You just have to recognize that it is not you. It is a program, and programs can be rewritten. Not with positive thinking, not with affirmations you do not believe, but with counter-evidence, with action, with the slow, brutal work of proving that voice wrong, one small victory at a time. Every time that voice says you can't, you have to do something. Not argue, not debate, act. The voice is not logical, it is emotional. It does not respond to reason, it responds to data. And the only data it respects is your behavior. So when it whispers you're going to fail, you get up and do one rep, one sentence, one step. You do not need to win the war in that moment. You just need to send a message. A simple, irrefutable message that says, I hear you and I am doing it anyway. That is the core of what psychologists call cognitive behavioral self-instruction. You are not trying to silence the negative voice. That is impossible. Trying to silence it only makes it louder. You are trying to build a second voice, a stronger voice, not louder but more credible because it is backed by action. The first voice says you are lazy. The second voice says I just wrote for 5 minutes. Which one is more convincing? Which one has evidence? The action voice. Always. So stop trying to think your way into a better mindset. Act your way into a better mindset. And let the thoughts catch up later. But let me be brutally honest with you. Your self-talk is not just negative. It is also seductive. It tells you what you want to hear. You deserve a break. You worked hard today. One more episode won't hurt. You can start the diet tomorrow. This is the voice of comfort, the voice of the status quo. And it is far more dangerous than the critical voice because it feels loving. It feels kind. It feels like self-care. but it is not self-care. It is self-sabotage dressed in a bathrobe. Real self-care is doing the thing you do not want to do because you respect yourself enough to keep your promises. Real self-care is finishing the report even when you are tired. Real self-care is going to the gym when every bone in your body wants to stay home, because the version of you tomorrow is counting on the version of you today. And when you break a promise to yourself, you are not just losing productivity, you are losing trust. Trust is the currency of the self. And you have been bankrupt for years, spending your own promises on nothing, buying fleeting relief with the collateral of your future. That stops now. Here is the practical technique. It is called the third-person shift. When you catch yourself in a loop of negative or seductive self-talk, stop. Literally stop moving, take a breath. Then say your own name out loud. Your name you are about to scroll instead of work. Why? Speak to yourself as if you are a coach talking to an athlete you deeply care about. Not a drill sergeant, not a best friend who enables you. A coach, someone who sees your potential and will not let you settle for less. Your name, I know you are tired. I know this is hard, but you have done hard things before. Remember that project you finished last month. Remember how good that felt. You can feel that again. Just start. Just for 5 minutes. I will be right here. This is not crazy. This is not silly. This is an evidence-based technique called distance self-talk. It works because it activates different neural pathways than first-person self-talk. It reduces activity in the amygdala and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex. It literally changes your brain chemistry. Try it. The next time you feel the pull of distraction, say your own name. Ask yourself what you really need. Then give it to yourself, not the escape, the action. Now let us talk about the stories you tell other people, because your self-talk does not exist in a vacuum. It is reinforced by every conversation, every complaint, every humble brag, every time you say, I am so busy, or I am so tired, or I could never do that. The words you speak out loud are commitments. They shape your identity in the ears of others, and their reactions shape your brain through social feedback. This is why you need boundaries around your goals. Not everyone deserves to hear about them. Not everyone will understand. Some people, even people who love you, will unconsciously try to pull you back down to their level because your growth makes them feel uncomfortable about their own stagnation. They will ask, are you sure? They will say that sounds risky. They will tell you to be realistic. And they mean well, but they are also wrong. You do not need to cut them out of your life. You need to cut them out of your goal. Stop discussing your ambitions with people who have not earned the right to hear them. Keep your mouth shut. Let your results do the talking, because every time you speak a goal before you have acted on it, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the same dopamine you would get from actual progress. And that premature reward tricks your brain into feeling like you have already done something. So you do less. You talk and you feel good and you stop. This is called social reality. It is a killer of dreams. Do not let it kill yours. Challenge for this section. For the next 24 hours, catch every negative or seductive thought. Do not judge it. Do not fight it. Just notice it. Then ask yourself, is this thought useful? Does it move me toward my goal or away from it? If the answer is away, replace it with one action, just one. Then do the action and say out loud, I did that. That is who I am now. Say this out loud. My thoughts are not my masters. They are my servants. And I will choose which ones to feed. Section 4. The body's betrayal, how physiology controls focus more than philosophy. You have been trying to think your way to focus, and you have been failing. Not because you are not smart enough, but because thinking is only 10% of the equation. The other 90% is happening in your body, in your breath, in your posture, in your blood sugar, in your sleep cycle, in the tension you are holding in your jaw right now without even realizing it. You have been trying to climb a mountain while breathing through a straw and then blaming your lack of willpower when you cannot reach the summit. That ends now. Let me teach you something that took me years of exhaustion to learn. Your brain is not separate from your body. It is an organ in your body. And like every other organ, its performance depends entirely on the physiological environment you create for it. Low blood sugar. Your prefrontal cortex shuts down. That is the part of your brain that says no to distraction. High cortisol from chronic stress. Your hippocampus, the memory and learning center, starts shrinking. Poor sleep. Your glymphatic system fails to clear out beta amyloid plaques, and your reaction time drops to the level of someone who is legally drunk, dehydrated by just 2%. Your cognitive performance drops by as much as 30%. You are not failing because you are weak. You are failing because you are running a Ferrari on sludge and wondering why it will not start. Let me give you the single most underrated habit for focus. It is not meditation. It is not cold plunges. It is not supplements. It is sleep hygiene with ruthless enforcement. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every morning. 7 to 9 hours. No phone in the bedroom. No screens 90 minutes before bed. Blackout curtains. Cool temperature. White noise if you need it. This is not optional. This is not for productivity hackers. This is biology. During deep sleep, your brain consolidates memories, processes emotions, and clears metabolic waste. Without that cleanup, your focus is not just poor. It is chemically impaired. You are literally walking around with a dirty brain, and you can willpower your way through that for about an hour before the exhaustion wins. So stop admiring the hustle culture idiots who brag about 4 hours of sleep. They are lying or they are damaging their brains. Either way, they are not your role models. Your role models are the people who are so disciplined about sleep that it looks boring, because they know something you do not. The battle for focus is won the night before, not in the morning. Every decision you make after poor sleep is a decision made by a compromised brain. And a compromised brain always chooses the path of least resistance. Always. Now let us talk about breath, because you are breathing wrong. I guarantee it. Most people breathe shallowly into their chest. This activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. It keeps you in a low-grade state of anxiety all day, and anxiety destroys focus. The antidote is diaphragmatic breathing, belly breathing. Sit up straight. Put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds. Feel your belly expand. Hold for 4 seconds. Breathe out through your mouth for 6 seconds. Feel your belly fall. Do this for 2 minutes. What just happened? You activated your parasympathetic nervous system. You lowered your heart rate. You reduced cortisol. You increased heart rate variability, which is a biological marker of resilience and focus. And you did all of that without thinking a single positive thought. That is the power of the body. You can hack your state in 60 seconds by changing how you breathe. Do this before every focused work session. Do it before difficult conversations. Do it when you feel the urge to check your phone. Do it when the negative self-talk gets loud. You are not a mind trapped in a body. You are a body with a mind. And the body can lead. Posture matters more than you think. When you slouch, your brain interprets that as defeat. It drops testosterone and raises cortisol. You literally become less confident and less capable of sustained attention. When you sit up straight, shoulders back, chin level, your brain releases more testosterone and less cortisol. You feel more powerful, and that feeling is not an illusion. It is a measurable change in your neurochemistry. This is not pseudoscience. This is the work of Amy Cuddy and hundreds of other researchers. Your body language shapes your internal state, so stop working from bed. Stop hunching over your phone. Stop crossing your arms when you are trying to think. Expand, take up space, breathe. And notice how the quality of your focus shifts. You cannot think your way to confidence. You have to act your way there. And the first action is simply sitting like someone who deserves to win. Here is the daily routine you need. Not for motivation, for survival. Wake up at the same time. Do not check your phone for the first 30 minutes. Drink a glass of water immediately. You just lost 8 hours of hydration. Your brain is dehydrated. Fix it. Then get natural light in your eyes within the first hour of waking. Sunlight on your face for 10 minutes. This sets your circadian rhythm. It tells your brain that day has begun. It triggers cortisol release at the right time, not the stress cortisol, the wake-up cortisol, and it starts the countdown for melatonin release 14 hours later. Without this, your sleep cycle drifts, your focus suffers. Then move your body, not a workout necessarily, just movement, 10 jumping jacks. A short walk, stretch, anything to get blood flowing to your brain. Then eat protein, not sugar, not carbs, protein. Tyrosine, an amino acid in protein, is a precursor to dopamine. You need dopamine to focus. You cannot focus if you are starving your brain of the raw materials it needs. This is not a diet. This is not wellness content. This is fuel. You would not put sugar water in a race car. Stop putting it in your body. Then and only then do your 5-minute focus task. By the time you get to the task, your brain is hydrated, lit up by sunlight, oxygenated by movement, and fueled by protein. You have given yourself a fighting chance. That is all you can do. But it is more than most people ever give themselves. Action step for this section. Tonight, set a sleep alarm for 30 minutes before you intend to sleep. When it goes off, put your phone in another room. Brush your teeth, stretch, read a physical book. Just try it for one night. Notice how you feel tomorrow. Notice your focus. Notice your mood. Then ask yourself if you can afford not to do this every single night. Say this out loud. My body is not my enemy. It is my instrument, and I will tune it every single day. Section 5. The relentless practice of rewiring, how to fail better than anyone you know you are going to fail. Let me say that clearly so you cannot miss it. You are going to set your goal. You are going to build your environment. You are going to fix your sleep and your posture and your self-talk. And then one day you are going to wake up and do none of it. You are going to hit snooze. You are going to scroll. You are going to eat the thing you should not eat. You are going to avoid the call you need to make. And in that moment, your old voice will return. It will say, see, I told you. You cannot change. You are a fraud. You wasted all that time reading that script. And here is where most people break. They let one failure become two. They let two failures become a week. They let a week become I will start again on Monday. And Monday becomes never. That is the pattern. That is the addiction. That is why most people die with their music still inside them. Not because they never tried. Because they tried, failed, and treated the failure as evidence of permanent inadequacy rather than a temporary data point. You need to learn something that no school will teach you. You need to learn how to fail forward. How to miss a day and come back the next day like nothing happened. How to fall off the wagon and climb back on before the dust settles. This skill, the skill of returning, is more important than consistency. Consistency is the goal, but returning is how you get there. And no one is good at it, because returning requires humility. It requires forgiving yourself when every fiber of your being wants to punish yourself. It requires getting back up when staying down feels easier. Let me tell you about the science of slips. It is called the abstinence violation effect. When someone trying to change a behavior has a single slip, they often interpret that slip as a complete failure of their identity. I ate one cookie, so I am a failure, so I might as well eat the whole box. That is the effect. One cookie becomes 10. One missed workout becomes a week on the couch. One angry word becomes a screaming match. The slip is not the problem. The interpretation of the slip is the problem. And you have been trained your whole life to interpret slips as catastrophes, by perfectionist parents, by a culture that worships winners and shames losers, by a social media feed that shows only the highlight reel. But that interpretation is a lie. A slip is just a slip. It carries no meaning except the meaning you assign to it. And you can assign a different meaning. You can say that was interesting. I wonder what triggered that. Let me learn from it and move on. You can say one missed day does not erase 30 good days. You can say I am not starting over. I am continuing from here. That is the shift. That is the mindset that separates the people who eventually win from the people who eventually quit. The winners do not fail less. They just return faster. Here is the practical protocol. It is called the 10-minute rule of return. The moment you notice you have slipped, the moment you catch yourself scrolling when you should be working, eating when you should be fasting, avoiding when you should be approaching, you do not judge. You do not spiral. You set a timer for 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, you do one tiny corrective action. 1. Send one email. Write one sentence. Do one push-up. Drink one glass of water. That is it. You are not trying to fix the whole day. You are not trying to make up for lost time. You are just signaling to your brain that the slip does not define you. The return defines you. And after those 10 minutes, you are allowed to stop. Or you can keep going, but you have already won, because you returned, and returning is a skill. Every time you return faster than last time, you strengthen the neural pathway of resilience. You weaken the pathway of shame. Over time, returning becomes automatic. You slip, you notice, you correct, you continue. No drama. no self-flagellation. Just the quiet, gritty work of a human being who has accepted that perfection is a myth and progress is the only real metric. Now let me ask you something that will sting. Who have you become in the story you tell yourself every day? Are you the victim of your circumstances? The person who would succeed if only the world would get out of the way? Or are you the creator? The person who builds even when the materials are poor? The person who acts even when the fear is loud? The person who returns even when falling down feels final? You have to choose, not once, not in a moment of inspiration, every single morning. Every single time you face a choice between the easy path and the hard path, the choice is always the same: comfort or growth, safety or meaning, the known pain of stagnation or the unknown pain of transformation. You cannot have both. No one can. The people you admire did not have a secret. They did not have better genes or luckier breaks. They had a decision. A decision they made so many times that it stopped being a decision and started being a reflex. They decided that their word to themselves mattered more than their comfort. They decided that their future self was not a stranger to be betrayed, but a child to be protected. They decided that the pain of discipline was lighter than the weight of regret. And then they acted on that decision, imperfectly, inconsistently, but relentlessly. And over time, the arc of their life bent toward their intention. You are standing at that same crossroads right now. You finished this script. That means something. That means a part of you is still fighting, still hopping, still willing to believe that you are not yet the final version of yourself. That part is small and tired and has been beaten down by years of false starts, but it is still there. And it is asking you for one thing, not perfection, not a complete life overhaul by tomorrow morning, just one action. One small, undeniable piece of evidence that you are serious. Put down your phone, open your notebook, write down one goal, then write down the smallest possible action you can take toward that goal in the next 5 minutes. Then do it, not when you feel ready, not when you have more time, now, while the fire is still warm, because the fire will fade. It always does. Motivation is a wave. It crashes and recedes, but the habit of action, that is a tide. It builds slowly, imperceptibly, until one day you look up and realize you are no longer the person who started. You are the person who finished, not because you were special, because you refuse to stop returning. Final challenge for this section and this script. Tomorrow you will slip. Something will go wrong. A meeting will run long. A kid will get sick. A headache will appear. And in that moment you will have a choice. Use it as an excuse or use it as a test. Choose the test. Do your 5 minutes anyway, even if it is 4 minutes, even if it is 2, even if it is just opening the document and closing it. Do something. Then say out loud to the room, to yourself, to the version of you that wanted to quit, I returned. That is who I am now. And then do it again the next day, and the next, and the next, until the distance between your slips is measured in weeks, then months, then years. That is not motivation. That is not talent. That is architecture. That is neuroscience. That is self-talk. That is physiology. That is the relentless, boring, beautiful practice of a human being who decided to become the author of their own life instead of the reader of someone else's story. Say this out loud and mean it. I am the one who returns. I fall. I learn. I rise. And I do not stop. Not ever.